Hey y'all, just wanted to make this quick video to walk you through our new repository and explain a little bit of what might be confusing for rendering your React components and just trying to understand where things live here. We went over this a little bit in class yesterday, but it might be useful to go through this video so you can stop and inspect things a little bit more, whatever makes sense for you. So, I'm here in my repo. What I would first do though is recommend going to the README page of our repository on GitHub. It's been updated, and go through the directions of setting up your repository in probably a new directory. Because this has been updated, you're going to be setting up a remote and working on different branches. So probably setting up a directory that's not your practice directory. Maybe it's your development directory. And we'll set up a remote and do all of our development work together from that. So again, check out the README for instructions on how to do that. I'm going to walk through where things live in this new repository because I did a little bit of refactoring just so things make a little more sense. So here we are. Over here you can see the structure of our repository. Most of the interesting things live in app right now. So what happens in our app when a user goes on and types in CSbyUs.org /, or in the case of our local server, localhost 3000 /? Well, in the model view controller architecture, we have to define our routes. And our routes are basically HTTP requests. It can be GETs, they can be posts. More often than not, they're going to be GETs for us, where we're getting information from what we've defined in our views. So the controller really is the conductor of this whole symphony. So a way to look at where all of our routes live, you can check them out by just typing Rails routes into your terminal in your base directory. You can see here, this would be the prefix. It's a get method, which means we're just getting data to look at. The URI is /, and the pattern, don't worry about that. And it looks up a controller action. So when a user types in CSbyUs.org /, it looks up this table and says, okay, go to my controller that's called pages and do the action called index. So I'm going to go to controllers, pages controller, and I have this method called index. So Rails is really smart. When I call an action called index in a controller, in the pages controller, Rails is going to immediately look up the view to render based on that. So it's going to look for a view called pages. So I see that. Pages has a page called index, and that's exactly what I'm going to return as the view when I call CSbyUs.org /. So this is what we get. It's one line. It just says JavaScript pack tag index. So I'm embedding JavaScript into this Ruby file, or our HTML with embedded Ruby file. All of this lives, all of our front-end stuff is essentially going to live in this JavaScript folder with packs and components. Packs sort of directs us to components. So the most interesting thing here is going to be index. So this is returning this file called index. What does this do? It's super simple. This essentially sets up our React DOM. And that is going to return a React component called app. We say component is the app. And outside of this, encapsulating it is a router and root. These are libraries that we imported from Browser Router, from the library React Router DOM. You might be asked to import this, but it should already be in our package.json file. So this allows us to not have to define all of our roots in this root file. Otherwise, we'd have to say, okay, if I have this specific URI pattern, then it's a get method and take me to the blog controller and do the post method. This library, an app, allows us to get all around that. An index allows us to get around that. So, okay, it loads the component app. Components live here. This is the control center for all of our front end. So what this says is, depending on the route, load a specific component. So when the user types in CSbyUs.org / load component called home, as it is in the old directory, if you build everything correctly and then run the development server, Rails S, then you will load this page. I think in that it's called index.js though. So I've renamed some things. So app is going to render, based on this root path, this component called home, which is just a sort of sample React page that I spun up. So you can check that out. Otherwise, if I type in the root CSbyUs.org / about, load this other component called about. Very simple right now. So let me show you how this works. First off, we'll do one thing first, and I want you to use this command to load our Webpack dev server. And this allows for hot reload. So if you change something in the repository, Webpack sets up listeners, and it will automatically recompile and reload your Webpack without you having to do anything. So the command is /bin/ oh shoot, I think it's /. Okay, you know what I mean. /Webpack dev server. Run. It's going to compile stuff. Great. Now, go to another terminal and spin up your local server. Go to our browser and pull up localhost 3000, or in the real world it would be CSbyUs.org. So we see this page that is our home component. Remember, we called this path, it loaded component home, which is all specified here. So now, let's load that about path. Great. So in app, we specified the root for about. We have a component called about, and it lives here. Super simple. Let's make a new one. Oops. So you can go ahead and kill your local server. And let's say we want a new root or new page for getting in contact. So we'll call it contact and have a component called contact us. We'll generate that with this fancy generator, Rails G React component. It's called contact us. It's going to build this little template for us. Great, here it is. Let's make it super simple. Get in touch. Awesome. So now, don't forget to import it. import contact us from contact us. And here we are. Let's see if that works. So, recompile or rebuild the project. And you don't have to do this every time because right now it's being slow because I'm recording this. But it will be useful for you at some point. So otherwise you can just use Rails S, but you'll have to just physically refresh your page every time instead of the hot reload. So let's go back. Let's make sure this route works still. Great. Let's check on about. Let's check on contact. Great. So hopefully that's a little overview that might help you get off the ground. If you're still having trouble with Yarn or developing any or installing any dependencies, just post that in the Slack. Hopefully we can work through those. Otherwise, happy developing and have fun. Okay.